who are just joining us, thank you so much for being here at Building Strength Webinars, and thank you for joining me for Gentle Steps to Health and Happiness. And I'd also like to thank David Ajibadi of Building Strength Webinars for hosting this event and all of the great teleclasses and webinars that he hosts at his site. It's a real honor to be here, so thank you very much, David. And by the way, before we get started, I was mentioning to everyone, be sure and grab a pen and paper before we get started here, because I'm going to be involving you in tonight's process. So if I may, let me tell you just a little bit of what you're going to be learning tonight. Because what I'm going to be sharing with you is, one, how to determine your core beliefs. And I'll explain to you in a moment what I mean by core beliefs. Also, I'm going to be sharing with you what are called the stages and processes of change, a little bit of their background and how that works. And finally, I'll be sharing with you what I call the power of balance, having balance in all the areas of your life and what that can accomplish for you. Also, as we go along tonight, you're going to be learning and seeing some simple yet powerful tools to help you create change in your life and help you achieve your goals. Also, by the way, at the end of my presentation tonight, I'll tell you how you can get some free reports from me and also offer you a free coaching session for those people who are here with us tonight on our webinar. And also for those people who are interested, by the way, I have a special offer on my coaching, but all of that will be at the end of tonight's presentation. For right now, let's talk a little bit about what the title of tonight's teleclass means. And it begins by talking about gentle steps. And what does gentle mean? Well, it's a word that I chose to convey to you the way that this process takes place. Because for many folks, trying to make changes in their life, whether it's getting rid of a bad habit, like smoking or eating too much, being overweight, or if it's trying to start a new good habit, such as exercising more, all things we're going to talk about tonight, regardless of what it may be that you're trying to accomplish, a change that you're trying to accomplish in your life. This is a guided process. It's a step-by-step process, as you'll see. Also, this is an empowering process. You are the person who is in charge. You decide what you want to do and how you want to go about doing it, with help and suggestions, of course. And it's a natural process. I'll explain to you how the way we think and feel has a tremendous impact on our results. And just as this process is empowering, it's also timely. And by that I mean you decide when you want to make the change and why you are making the change. Also, it is a lasting process. And by that, I mean that the change happens from within in this process. It is a natural process that happens from within. And it is effective also because it is simple and easy to use. Anyone can use it, as you'll see. So let's go ahead and talk about these steps. Now, what I'm talking about here are what is called the stages of change. And the source of this comes from a book called Changing for Good by James Prochaska. And this book was originally written in 1994. And again, it's called Changing for Good. Since then, it has won numerous honors and awards. And what Prochaska did was very different, because when he discovered these stages of change, no one had really identified these before. And the way he did this was working with successful self-changers, people who had done something like, let's say, quitting smoking or lost weight. And as he compiled all of this data, he realized there was a natural process that people go through. And you see there right now before you the 6 stages of change: pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance, and termination. And these 6 stages happen in order. They happen one after the other, the natural process that I was talking about. And here's just a little bit about each one of these. To begin, in pre-contemplation, people don't believe they have a problem. So of course they don't need to change. But perhaps the people around them can see problems developing. Say someone is overweight and maybe a loved one is asking them about it, or maybe their doctor is talking to them about it, but it's not a problem. Change can't even begin in pre-contemplation. If someone's in pre-contemplation, they're really not a candidate for change at this time. People can always change, of course, but for right now, they're just not ready. They're in denial. However, the next step, the next stage of change, number 2, contemplation. In this stage, people start to think that they do have a problem. They may try to understand it or to learn its causes, and they start wondering about how to solve it. Now they believe that someday they'll need to change, but right now they think that this day is just sometime in the future. However, at stage 3, preparation, now most individuals in this stage are planning to take action within a month. And that's somewhat of an arbitrary figure, but we're just going to use that as a guideline and say that someone has moved into preparation when we ask them, when are you going to do this? The answer that they give us is within 30 days, within a month. They're going to make the change in their life. And the point here is that they're making plans. Now, there may still be questioning about their motives and trying to convince themselves that they need to take action soon. And in fact, that brings us to stage 4, action. Now, you'll notice that I've highlighted that. And here's the reason. Action is stage 4, and that was one of the big revelations about this model of change. How many times have you or someone you know made New Year's resolutions to change something? And you're going to jump into action. And that's the reason why people fail so often. They don't go through this process. When someone has gone through these steps, when they have gone through these stages, when they get to action now, they are ready to make the change, and they are much more likely to succeed. Especially if we've thought about in advance stage 5, maintenance. Because at this stage, people work on maintaining the change that they've made. And they also are finding ways to prevent lapses, going back to their old ways of doing something. And they learn how to deal with whatever is associated with the type of change that we're talking about, if it's cravings for food or emotions that they're dealing with, whatever the case may be. Finally, termination. And for many things, of course, this is the ultimate goal, because at this stage, the old behavior no longer presents any temptation. People have confidence in their new behaviors, in their new routines. And at that point, they can leave the cycle of change and start the process all over again. So this is a very powerful model. And the good news is that in addition to these stages, there are also processes that support each of these. Now, these 9 processes are processes that are commonly used in psychology and other fields, but here's the really neat thing about these processes. Prochaska also discovered that they are most effective, they work best with certain stages. For example, consciousness raising, increasing information about yourself and the problem. Social liberation, for instance, increasing social alternatives, behaviors, that are not problematic. What's happening here? These are the processes of contemplation. Remember what contemplation is. Someone's starting to think that they have a problem, okay? They're increasing their information about the problem. They're looking at alternatives for the problem. Very, very effective to support the contemplation stage. And then when we move into the preparation stage, emotional arousal. People are experiencing and expressing feelings about their problems. They're getting in touch with those emotions like we talked about. And self-reevaluation, assessing their feelings and thoughts about themselves with respect to the problem. And finally, commitment, choosing and committing to act or belief in the ability to attain. Now remember, we're talking about a commitment to act. We're not talking about actual action in stage 4. We are preparing. We're in preparation. We're getting aroused emotionally about this. We're reevaluating ourselves. We're making the commitment. All of those emotions, those thoughts and feelings are building our belief in the ability to change. And we're going to talk about the role of belief a lot more in just a few minutes. However, as we continue with the processes, there are 4 more that are most effective in stages 4 and 5. And of course, I'm sure you'll recall that stage 4, action, and stage 5, maintenance. Now, when we're in action, we are countering. We're using the process called countering. In other words, we're substituting alternatives for problem behavior. For example, let's say somebody is quitting smoking. They have an urge to light up. They want to have something in their hand. So let's say that they have cut up some celery and carrots. So they go over to the refrigerator. So instead of lighting it up, they open the refrigerator door and grab a carrot stick. Now that's just one example, and I'm sure you can come up with lots better examples if you're a smoker who's looking to quit. But we'll talk about how we do that in a moment too. Also, environmental control. Very important when we go into action. And of course, maintenance too. This is stages 4 and 5. But again, let's say we're quitting smoking. We want to make darn sure that when it's time to quit, that we've got all the cigarettes out of the house, so that we just simply don't have that temptation in the environment. And again, that's just one example of environmental control. Now, rewards, of course, always important at every stage. Rewarding yourself or being rewarded by others for making change. And rewards can come in many forms, of course. For yourself, you can give yourself little treats, but I don't think there's anything more powerful than hearing from someone else, especially for the loved one, how good you look now that you're losing weight, or you don't smell like an ashtray anymore if you're quitting smoking. And by the way, folks, I am an ex-smoker, so I'm not picking on the smokers here, okay? But those are very powerful. When someone says that, when someone else notices and makes a positive comment, wow, there's no better feeling in the world than that, to be sure. And of course, that comes within the context of helping relationships, enlisting the help of someone who cares. And those helping relationships, we're talking about support. And of course, that can come in a variety of forms as well. So, the 6 stages of change: pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance, and termination, and the 9 processes that we have been talking about. This is our basic model of change that we're going to continue to use over and over. And between the two, how we define what gentle means in this context and the steps, the 6 stages that we were just talking about. Here's how and why they work so well. And we're going to do a little psychology here, a little look at the way that we think. Because you can gently make changes to improve your health and happiness using natural processes and simple tools. And knowing and understanding these concepts will really accelerate your results. So take a moment, please, to look at this with me. The process is how adults learn best. And in a nutshell, adults learn best when they understand why So that's where the process of education plus understanding plus action equals change. We begin with education, gathering information, some of the things we were just talking about. Then understanding, in other words, why, gaining insights into the problem, understanding why you do something, maybe understanding why you do binge eating, or understanding why cigarettes are addictive, or understanding, for that matter, and we're not going to just talk about changing problem behaviors. We're going to talk about creating positive behaviors too, like getting more exercise, for example. Understanding why that's important. All of those things contribute to someone's motivation and their ability to take action, which of course can equal change. But there's another process that's even more fundamental that's happening here that I call the foundation. Why things, quote unquote, happen to you. And that all begins with beliefs. Now we're going to look at each one of these components in greater detail in just a moment. We'll talk about what I mean by beliefs. But those are the foundation of everything. How we think about ourselves, how we think about the world, how we think about other people, and the context that we give to that. And all of these beliefs, and many of which are subconscious, and that could be a whole class in itself, but we're going to take a brief look at that, okay? But those beliefs in turn lead to your thoughts about things and the nature of those thoughts. And that in turn creates emotions, your body's response to what you're thinking and how you react in different ways. And that is also the process that leads to action. Now let's take a little bit of a closer look at that. As I mentioned a moment ago, you have beliefs about your life, about everything really, how you think the world works, how you perceive yourself and so forth. And let's just do a real brief example of that, okay? Get that pen and paper that I was talking about, because I'd like to ask you a couple of questions, and go ahead and just jot down your immediate reactions here, okay? We're going to be talking about your beliefs, your feelings, your perceptions. And of course, we're going to begin talking about health. So let me ask you this. What do you believe about having good health that you know is true? What's most important about having good health? What's important that you do every day in order to have good health? Write down whatever comes to mind. Okay, now let's take a look at yourself for a moment. Generally speaking, what do you believe about yourself? And what I mean by that is, how do you talk to yourself? What is called self-talk. When you're talking to yourself, what do you say? How do you see yourself? What's your self-image? What's your self-esteem? How do you feel about yourself? What you're capable of, what you can do, what your life is like so far. What are your beliefs about these sort of things? Take a moment and just kind of get a feel for what those might be for you. Again, we could go on about this for the rest of our hour tonight, but I just want you to get a feeling for what I mean when I say beliefs. Our core beliefs, how you think the world works, how you feel about yourself, how you see yourself in the world, how you see other people, beliefs. Because these beliefs are going to determine your thoughts. And these are your thoughts that you use to make evaluations, decide if something is good or bad or right or wrong. Now, we're going to see in a moment how those labels can be very misleading, and I'm going to encourage you not to use those labels for many things at all. But so far, we've talked about beliefs and thoughts. What's the next part of the formula? The next part of the formula is emotions. And we'll generally categorize those as happy or sad emotions. And these are your body's reaction to the nature of your thoughts. We were just talking about how your thoughts are created by your beliefs. Your emotions are created by your thoughts. And people experience these emotions in different ways. How they feel, of course, can be a psychological state of mind, but also many people respond in different ways through their body, and they're actually what they call preferred systems. For example, if someone's under stress about something, some people get headaches. Some people have problems with their stomach or their bowels, or they get a stiff neck. In other words, that's where your body is manifesting that negative energy that we might call sad. Or if you feel happy, if you're having the emotions of love, if you're having the emotions of joy, how does that feel? Do you get that feeling in your chest, around your heart, that just seems to light up and swell? Those are your body's reaction to emotions. And as a result of this process, beliefs, thoughts, emotions, you have a response to all of this. And the nature of this response determines what happens or doesn't happen next. And what that is, of course, is action and change, or no action and no change. And what we want to focus on tonight, of course, is the beliefs and thoughts and emotions that lead to action, not inaction, and help you change. Because your results confirm your beliefs. And this is an ongoing loop that continues to produce what we call positive or negative results. But keep something in mind, please, that William Shakespeare said a long time ago. He said, "There is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so." Pretty profound statement. And let's stop and create an example that illustrates all of this for just a moment. Let's say that something happens in your life, and it's a major event. Let's say that you lose your job, for instance. Now, that process starts. Where is it going to start? It's going to start with your beliefs about yourself and your value and your worthiness, your beliefs in your ability to get another job. There's a lot of core fundamental beliefs there that in turn are going to lead to thoughts. And your thoughts could range, of course, from what am I going to do to find another job? Where am I going to look? How are the ways that I can go about looking? You're going to start to think about this. Now, we haven't gotten to the emotions part yet. Right now, we've started with some beliefs. We're starting to have some thoughts about this event that has happened. And now we're going to have an emotional reaction and a response to it. Let's say that your beliefs and your thoughts led you to the emotion of fear. And your beliefs and your thoughts led you down the road of, God, I had a hard time finding this job. It's a bad, that's all we hear right now these days, of course. It's a bad economy. How am I ever going to find another job? What's going to happen if I start running out of money? I might lose my house. And of course, the emotions of fear continue to take us down that road, and that is our response as a result of that. And chances are that's going to lead to no action and no change. We're going to be paralyzed by fear as a result of that process. Now, I'm kind of creating an extreme example here for purposes of illustration. But let's take a look at the other side of this coin for a moment. Again, the same scenario. I've lost my job. Now, I have beliefs that I'm a very capable person. I've had to go out and look for jobs in the past, and I've always been successful, and I've always found better and better jobs, and I know that I can do that again. So that leads me to thoughts of, let's see, who can I call? Who can I talk to that might have a resource for me, that would know of somebody who's looking for somebody like me? See, I'm getting creative, positive thoughts now. I'm not going down the road of fear. I'm going down the road of creativity, and I'm starting to imagine how I can go about resolving this situation. And this is not leading me to emotions of fear and distress. Certainly there is going to be some stress. There's stress any time that we make a change. But I understand that there are going to be those occasional times when there are going to be those flashes of fear. We all have those, of course. But when we're in a place of positive beliefs and thoughts, we know that that fear is just in our mind, that we can counter that in a variety of ways, and our emotions are confident, we're strong, we're capable, and as a result, we move into action and we start implementing those creative ideas. Now, my results are confirming my beliefs in an ongoing loop that continues to be positive. So again, Shakespeare said there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. I lost my job. There's basically two roads I could go down. One was the bad road, and one was the good road. I chose the good road, and thinking made it so. Now, let's bring this all together and apply it to what we call the wheel. And you'll see the wheel in many forms. Perhaps you heard of the wheel of life. There's all sorts of wheels. And tonight I wanted to share with you the wheel of health and happiness, the title of our class. But we're going to start with just the wheel of health. And here's where I'm going to ask you to draw your own wheel. If you would, take out that piece of paper and draw essentially what you see there on the screen. Now, for some reason you're not looking at the screen, go ahead and draw a big circle in the middle of your page, say about the size of a grapefruit. And draw a vertical line and draw a horizontal line inside the circle, dividing it into 4 sections. Then draw an X inside the circle. So it divides the circle into 8 sections, like a pie. So now we have a wheel with 8 sections in it. And we're going to label each one of these sections as we go around the wheel. And we're going to begin with some topics from health. Now, as you know, I'm a certified professional coach, and one of the things I do is help people with health and wellness. And in working with all the hundreds of people that I have over the years, literally all over the globe, I've chosen some categories here that I think are good examples of a basic health program for most people. Now, you'll notice here in the very first section, I've labeled it beliefs. Again, if you're not near your computer, if you're not looking at your computer, take that wheel that we just drew, that we divided into 8 sections, and label the top right-hand segment, that top piece of the pie there on the right-hand side, beliefs. And now we're going to come around the circle and label each one of these segments as we go. So, in the next section, underneath beliefs, please write in the category weight. Then in the section underneath that, please write hydration. And then in that bottom section on the right, please write exercise. So far we have 4 segments labeled beliefs, weight, hydration, and exercise. Now, as we start to come around the bottom of the circle to the left-hand side, in that 5th segment, please write nutrition. And for the moment, we're going to leave the remaining sections blank and fill those in just a bit. Now, here's how we're going to complete the wheel. Essentially what we're going to do is we're going to draw a wheel within a wheel, because I'm going to ask you to rate yourself in each one of these sections. But please be sure that you rate your current level of satisfaction in each one of these areas. Okay, do not necessarily rate yourself on someone else's opinions or standards that you think are out there. And let me give you an example of that, if I may. Let's say, for instance, that you are 10 pounds overweight. you know, your doctor or your research you've done indicate for your height and so forth, that you're overweight, and you feel you know, like you are carrying perhaps a few extra pounds, but you know, overall you're in fine health and it doesn't inhibit you in any way. It hasn't caused you any problems, and you are just fine being at that weight. You might tend to give yourself a much higher score. However, continuing with this example, if you are, you know, 20 or 30 or 50 pounds overweight, then most certainly that is an area of concern. And if you, to use an extreme example, if you were 50 pounds overweight and you rated yourself, you gave yourself a high level of satisfaction with that, it'd be safe to say that you are back in pre-contemplation, and it's not even time to start talking about change, okay? But you see what I mean, I hope, when I say rate yourself on your current level of satisfaction in each one of these areas. So now let's go back to the wheel and talk about how we are going to fill this in, because we're going to rate each section on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 being the center of the wheel, the hub of the wheel, and 10 being the outside of the wheel, the perimeter of the wheel. So for example, as you can see here on the screen, I went ahead and started to fill this in to give you an idea of what this might look like. And for beliefs, I gave myself an 8 out of 10. In other words, I gave myself a pretty high rating. I have a high, I'm pretty satisfied with my beliefs. I think I've got a good, healthy outlook. I've got a positive outlook. You know, all the things that we've talked about. I rated myself pretty high there. On the other hand, on my weight, I gave myself a 5. And in this example, I'm going to say that I'm 20 pounds overweight, which is not true, by the way, but let's say that I am. And based on that, you know, some of the foods that I'm eating and so forth and so on, you know, I think I'm only at about a 5. I'm not particularly satisfied with that. That's an area that, you know, I really think needs some improvement. So using that as an example, let's go around now and I'll ask each of you to start filling in your wheels. Let's go ahead and start with beliefs. And if you'll think back to the little discussion that we had about beliefs, go ahead and rate yourself on your beliefs in that first section on a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 being completely dissatisfied, 10 being completely satisfied. Pick a number and draw an arc at about that place on the wheel. We're going to essentially draw a wheel within a wheel by the time we get around. Got beliefs? Okay, good. Now, let's go on to weight. Again, on a scale of 0 to 10, rate your current level of satisfaction with your weight. That goes in the second section. The third section, hydration. What I mean by that is water. And we're not talking about other beverages. We're talking about water. And, you know, I know it's one of these things that we've all heard, but I can't stress to you folks the importance of drinking water for good basic health. The most advice from quote-unquote experts these days suggests that you cut your body weight in half and you drink that many ounces per day. So in other words, if you weigh 200 pounds, that would be 100 ounces or 10 10-ounce glasses per day. And if you're not drinking a lot of water right now, that may sound like a lot, but it really isn't, and it's a very easy thing to do. So just kind of based on that, plus, of course, how you feel, your current level of satisfaction with the amount of water that you are currently drinking every day. Go ahead and fill in that third section, please. And now on to section 4, exercise. And I hate to use the E word with people, but fact of the matter is that exercise is a very, very basic and fundamental component of good health for a variety of reasons. And not only in terms of exercising all of the major muscle groups in your body, but also the impact that this has on all of your major organs, on your metabolism, and the list goes on, and this is not the time and the place to tout the advantages of exercise. Let's just say that as a certified coach, I highly suggest to you that it's very important to incorporate activity in your day. And with a lot of folks who don't like the E word, I like to talk about having an active lifestyle, some very easy ways to be able to increase your level of activity and incorporate exercise into your daily routine. Having said all that, in that fourth section there, on a scale of 0 to 10, please rate your current level of satisfaction with the amount of exercise that you have in your life on a daily basis. And lastly, nutrition. And by nutrition, I mean the kind of foods that you buy, how those foods are prepared. We all know, again, none of this stuff is mysterious. We all know that eating fruits and vegetables, eating unprocessed foods, eating healthy oils and fats, all the things that we hear, are important parts of nutrition. For many people, that also includes supplementation. It's often very hard to get all of the nutrition that we need from the foods that are available to us, depending on where you live in the country or where you live in the world. In any event, based on all of that, please rate yourself on nutrition on a scale of 0 to 10, your current level of satisfaction with your nutrition. Okay, now we are starting to draw the circle within the circle. We've rated ourselves on 5 categories so far. Let's move on to the final 3 areas. And for right now, I'm going to ask you to think about 3 areas that are most important in your life right now. And these are the people, places, and things that you feel contributes to your overall level of happiness right now, wherever that may be. And here's some examples. You could choose categories such as money and finances, or job, career, hobbies and interests, fun and recreation, family and friends, spirituality and purpose. And here's the time now for you to really customize this wheel for yourself and think about choosing 3 of these areas. That there are examples here. I'm sure there's folks here with us tonight that are perhaps thinking of other things for those final 3 sections. Whatever those may be, go ahead and write those 3 categories in on your wheel on those final 3 sections and rate each one of those, please, on a scale of 0 to 10, and I'll give you just a moment to do that. Okay. Now, you have your wheel. What do you think? Here's the 8 categories on our wheel of health and happiness. And hopefully you've rated each one of these categories for yourself. Here's what we're going to do next. What does your wheel look like? Does it look like the sample here? Well, regardless, now pick a category that is most important to you from all of the 8 of the categories that we've been talking about. Now, please keep in mind, this doesn't necessarily need to be the one with the lowest number, the one that's most important to you. Once you've done that, we'll decide on a short-term goal, and I'll show you how we'll do this. So go ahead now, please, and pick the one area, the one section, that one category that's most important to you right now. Now let me ask you this question, please. About this category that you've chosen, what is one small step that you can take today to start moving that score up one number? whatever that category is, however you rated yourself, what is one small step you can take today to start moving that score up one number? Now notice the language of this question here. It's real important because I'm asking that you begin with, let's call it a baby step, something that can't possibly fail. Because right now our immediate goal is simply to begin this process. So let's think of an example of a baby step about something. What might that be? Let's say that you want to start drinking more water. What might a baby step be? Well, how about a baby step that says, first thing tomorrow morning when you get up, before you get in the shower or before you do anything else, you'll drink a glass of water. 1 glass. Pretty much can't possibly fail. What's going to happen then? Well, then I'm going to ask you, when will you do that and how will I know? Well, you're going to do that tomorrow morning. And maybe you can send me an email and let me know if I was working with you as my coach. So here in the example, we're talking about doing a little coaching here. But this process, I wanted to kind of role model for you, becomes the essential process for creating change and bringing your wheel into balance for optimum health and happiness, because balance here is the key, and I'll explain why in a moment. But before we move on, looking at the wheel that you have drawn, your wheel as it is right now, if that was a wheel on a bicycle right now, how does your ride feel? Well, if you're like most people, it's probably a little bumpy. But as I said, our goal is to bring your wheel into balance, and we're going to do that one step at a time, one segment at a time. So let me ask you this. How would it feel if your wheel was round and the ride is smooth on that bicycle? And how far and how fast can you go when you've got that round wheel? Well, folks, you now have the knowledge and tools to begin finding out. Because what we've learned tonight, using the visual aid of the wheel and using this simple coaching process, is something that you can do with yourself. Now, here's what happens with coaching. Coaching adds support and accountability to the processes and the foundation that we've been talking about. Now, remember we talked about how adults learn. Education plus understanding plus action. Now, for those of us who have tried to make a change or break a bad habit, which is probably everybody here on the line with us tonight all around the world, we know that despite the best of intentions and all the best planning and everything else, when we get into action, especially in the first 2 to 3 weeks, it can be a little challenging at times to break those old habits or keep up with those good new habits. And that's where the role of support and accountability comes in. It's what I call co-created change. Because remember, in this example that we've used, I asked you to rate yourself in each section. And not on what somebody else thinks, but what on you think. And not only what you think, but how you feel. Your level of satisfaction in each area. Then, I asked you to come up with a simple step, a baby step. What's one little step you could take to start moving that number? Whatever, let's say that you chose water, and it's a 5, like I did in my example. So I'm going to ask you, what's one little step you could take to start moving that to a 6? What's one simple thing you could do to start drinking more water? Well, Dave, how about if when I get up in the morning, before I jump in the shower or get dressed or do anything else, I'll drink a glass of water. Okay, great. That sounds like an excellent idea. Will you send me an email and let me know? Yeah, I sure will. Okay, that's a coach and a client working together. Now, you can do the same thing with yourself. And it involves, of course, writing things down and holding yourself accountable. And you have friends and loved ones who can fill this role for you as well and give you that support and accountability too. Share with them what you're doing once you get into action, folks. Now, there's a real important point. Please, if you want to share a little bit about what we're talking about, what your plans are, and how this is going to work for you, that's a great idea, but especially if you're like most of us and you've tried to make changes before and you've tried and failed, or it just really hasn't stuck, whatever the case may be a little careful, please. It's only human nature, it's only natural when you see something like this. If you like the model that you've seen here, if this resonates with you and it's something that you'd like to try, it's only natural to get excited about it. You're going to want to tell other people. For right now, let's keep it our little secret as you decide where you are in the stages of change and what you need to do to get ready to change. And remember, we're not going to rush things here. We're not going to get off the phone and throw away that pack of cigarettes or whatever the case may be, okay? We're going to go back and remember the stages of change, and I'd be happy to send you a little report that tells you about that, by the way. I'll tell you about that in just a moment. And, of course, you can go on the Internet and look up James Prochaska and Changing for Good in the Stages of Change. There's lots of great information there. Nevertheless, the support and accountability for many people is really the key and really makes the difference in being able to make changes, lasting positive changes. And you can do that for yourself. You can do it for your loved ones. Now, I mentioned a moment ago that I have some free reports available. There's a couple of them here. One of them is called Balance and Beliefs, the Foundations of a Healthy and Happy Life. And also a report on the Wheel of Health that we've been talking about tonight, how and why it works. Also, for those of you who are here at the webinar tonight, I'd like to offer you a free coaching session. And that can be a 30-minute review of your wheel and the next steps. And by the way, I do offer a variety of services for individuals, groups, employers, and doctors. If you're interested in learning more about that, you can give me a call at the number that you see there, and that's my office number, 805-202-8101. You can also email me at sheldonservices@charter.net, and that's my last name, Sheldon, S-H-E-L-D-O-N, services, S-E-R-V-I-C-E-S, at charter.net. Also, if all of this looks interesting to you, if you'd like to do a sample coaching session, or you're ready to learn more right now, I'd be happy to offer you, just for the folks who are here on tonight's webinar, I have a special offer on my coaching, individual 30-minute sessions at a special price of $40 per session. And there's no obligation to do more than one. It's something you can, see how it goes, or we can do a couple. If you really like what you're seeing and you like the results that you're getting, I can offer you a special price on 8 weekly sessions, which I highly recommend for implementing major change in your life, and that's at a special price of $240. Now, ordinarily, I would be sending you to my website, stepwaytohealth.com, but it is currently being remodeled. It was supposed to be back up and running before tonight's webinar, and I do apologize for the inconvenience. If all of this looks interesting to you, I hope that you will come and visit us next week at stepwaytohealth.com. But in the meantime, you can reach me at my office at 805-202-8101, and you can email me at sheldonservices@charter.net. Just simply ask for your free report or your free coaching session, or if you're interested in doing some coaching beyond that, we can also talk about that as well. And again, I want to thank David Ajibadi and Building Strength Webinars for hosting this event tonight. And thank you all for attending. I hope that you've learned something tonight. I hope that you have seen something that is valuable. I hope you have your wheels in front of you. And remember, that is a very, very powerful tool. The wheel, it's also called the circle of life, has literally been around for thousands of years. It's a very, very powerful visual tool, but it also represents a very simple step-by-step process. And when you combine that process with the stages of change, and you identify where you are in those changes, and as you move from pre-contemplation into contemplation, and I'm going to take a wild guess that most of the folks who are on the phone tonight are at least in contemplation about wanting to have a healthier and happier life. Then, when you move into the preparation stage, and remember, we define that as setting a date within 30 days of making the change, whatever that change may be, of changing the way you eat in order to be able to lose some weight. And of course, we're going to combine that with increased activity or whatever other quote-unquote bad habits that you want to break, or whatever quote-unquote good habits you want to start doing or start doing more of. All of these things work together in a very simple and a very magical way for you to be able to accomplish all of the changes in your life and have a very healthy and happy life. Thank you so much for attending tonight, folks, and have a very wonderful evening.